Good morning, great souls. It's a joy to be here with you. When I started reflecting on this topic and the title, "The Law is Perfected in Love," I started thinking about why it is that we have laws in the first place. I feel sometimes our society is a little bit obsessed with law. If you look, even the streets of Delhi right now are reflecting how passionate we feel about the laws that we make and the rules that we use to govern ourselves. But why do we have laws? On some level, it's a reflection of the age that we live in. If you know anything about Sri Yukteswar's teachings on the yugas, you know that he taught that we've just come out of Kali Yuga and we're in Dwapara Yuga, but still very low on the totem pole of the whole cycle. And as such, we are given laws. Moses speaks of laws, but actually all great teachers give us laws. Jesus also gave laws. Krishna gave laws. So the laws that we have on this plane are usually organized in such a way that they actually are reflections of divine law, which is to say, they're here to ensure our happiness. We create laws saying you shouldn't harm other people. That ensures that we are not harmed, and in turn, that makes us happy. We have laws saying that you should wear a helmet when you ride your motorcycle. Now, on one hand, you should maybe think, okay, if you're riding a motorcycle, maybe you should already know that you should wear a helmet. And yet, it's not until the law comes that we do that. Because on some level, we don't know what's good for us. We don't know what will actually bring us happiness. We think that the feeling of the wind rushing through our hair will bring us the greatest joy, or a greater joy than what could happen if we were to slip or fall. I know personally, when I started riding a motorcycle here in India, I looked around, I saw no one was wearing a helmet, so I didn't wear a helmet. And then one day, I was riding on the Pune to Mumbai expressway, and I was coming off the highway. We were going somewhat fast, and I came upon some gravel. And the next thing I knew, I was on the ground under the motorcycle, and I wasn't wearing a helmet. And after that, I always did. I learned a lesson that day. Something happened, and I was able to learn that lesson that, it actually, the little joy that comes from feeling the freedom, quote unquote, of not wearing a helmet on my motorcycle is outweighed by the fact that I could hit my head very hard and no longer have a life, or have a life that is affected very strongly by this decision. So all of our laws that we make are in some way helping us to see what will bring us happiness, what will help us avoid pain. In fact, even built into our laws is the pain. If you break this law, I will fine you. If you break this law, I will put you in jail. You will lose your freedom. You will lose your money. You'll lose the things that you like. And divine law is actually the same thing. Now, in a much lower age, law comes to us in the form of fear. You must do this in order to avoid bad things. I must wear a helmet in order to avoid a fine, or I must wear a helmet in order to avoid pain. But in higher ages, and as we move towards higher ages, we see that actually these things are here to remind us of something higher, something inside. So when Moses gives his laws, the most famous laws in spiritual literature, I think, in the West are the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother. So what are these laws? Now in that time, the law was such that God would punish you if you broke the law. But what is actually happening when we break those laws? What actually happens when we kill? Or maybe more relatable to us, when we don't honor our father and mother? What is the purpose of that? Now, historians will say, okay, it had to do with societal structures. You needed to keep the core nucleus of the family was really important, so we had to make sure that that stayed. So they wrote it into their histories. But what happens when we honor our father and our mother? What do we feel when we truly respect them, when we truly see them as an instrument of God? We feel joy. We feel a little bit of that inner bliss. Now, I find it very interesting that Swamiji titled that reading that the law is perfected in love. I was reading some of what Master said about that. Master said that love is actually a tool that we use to experience joy. That joy, bliss, Ananda, Satchidananda really, is actually what God is, and that in order to move towards God, we have to experience that. So when you say things like God is love, we should honor our father and mother, we should love our father and mother, what's actually being taught to us is the path to experience Satchidananda. Because in that love, in those experiences of love, we get a taste of what is actually there. It's one of the reasons that God planted in our hearts the desire for human love, for familial love. It's why God implanted in the heart of every mother and father automatic love for that child. Master said that no matter what a child does, even if he becomes a murderer, their mother will still love them. That's not a mistake. That's an instruction. God gave us clues in terms of how to find him in the way we feel about the people that we love. Even romantic love, Master said, was one of the highest paths to God because in it is one of the closest experiences that we can have to divine love. But on that path, eventually we want to experience that purest love, no? That actual divine love. I remember when I was with Swamiji, I met him actually as a child. I grew up at Ananda, but in my adult life I met him here in India. And I became his videographer very early on, and so I spent a lot of time around him, and he was, just speaking beautifully about the Gita and different satsangs and things. And I noticed something, that he would look at me very intently, with a lot of love in his eyes. And I could not handle it. I couldn't take it at all. It was completely overwhelming. And not in the way, maybe, I didn't realize at least at the beginning that it was in the way that I was experiencing divine love. It was actually painful. Because my cup, the cup of my heart, could not hold the entire ocean. When you meet someone like a Swami Kriyananda, like someone who is, as the reading says, able to, through the way they love others, completely experience the love of God in its purest form. But when that cup gets overflown, sometimes that can be overwhelming. When you realize how much love there is possible, it's a little much to take. God said that God said through Master, that if we could know how much God loves us, we would die for joy. And I don't think that is a metaphor. I don't think that's a poetic flourish. I think we would actually, if in this moment we experience cosmic consciousness, we would probably die for joy. Because what else is there to live for than that? We wouldn't need to live any longer. Now, the process of figuring out how we can allow more joy in and more love in, it really is the spiritual path. The conclusion of that story, although that story for me is very much still in process, but the conclusion of that story so far was Swamiji would look at me with all of this love in his eyes, and I would feel myself overwhelmed, and I would look away. I would always break eye contact. The first time it was a matter of a second, maybe. I was not used to staring people in the eyes, and I was not used to seeing that much love. And I didn't even know what it was at first, to be honest. It took some time for me to even really understand who this was in front of me. I had just shown up on the spiritual path. I had just started meditating. I just started reading things. It was very, very new. But the next time, I could do 2 seconds. And the time after, 3 or 4 seconds. And I will remember for the rest of my life the moment when I got him to look away first. Because that was the moment that I had enlarged my cup such to the point where I could hold a little bit more. Now that doesn't mean that I'm finished. Obviously, I'm still here. I've not yet died for joy. But in the process of figuring out, of learning how to receive that much love, we will have these opportunities. Love will come to us in unexpected ways. I find it interesting that in the affirmation, Swamiji talks about how much of God's love we can feel by giving love. But then in the reading from Rays of the One Light, he talks about that love is what comes through, that it's actually God's love that is what's happening. Swamiji wrote once that you cannot, basically that we cannot actually love God fully. Our job is not actually to love God, it is to receive His love. That everything we do when we awaken our devotion through chanting and through worship, and we have the altar in our home that we offer to, on one hand we're worshiping, but on a very real sense we're actually opening ourselves in order to receive the love. It says in the Bible, to those that received Him, to them gave He the power to become the sons of God. So we think sometimes that our job is so complicated and hard. We have to do all of these things. We have to meditate. We have to go to the altar. We have to chant. We have to do Mahamudra. We have to do energization, all of these things. All of those things are tools so that we can learn how to receive His love. Because His love is constantly trying to express itself to us. Everything in our lives is an expression of God's love. The challenges, the successes, the person who cuts you off, the person who's mean to you, your child smiling at you in the morning, everything. I remember one meditation very early on. I was in the Ananda temple in Assisi, the Temple of Light. And I was in the lower chamber. And I was trying to meditate and trying to meditate. I was trying to have devotion, and it was really difficult for me. I struggle with that sometimes. I can actually get very mental and very locked up in my mind. And I was like, why can't I figure this out? What am I doing wrong? And a thought just came to me. Are you open? And in that moment, it was like an avalanche was turned on. I felt immediately His presence. I felt immediately God's love. I had been holding Him out the whole time. It wasn't the things I was trying to do. In fact, you could even say the things I was trying to do were getting in the way because I hadn't opened myself to what was trying to get in the entire time. God is right here. God's love is right here. All we have to do is open our eyes. I'd like to end with a poem from Master's Songs of the Soul, which are a collection of mystical poems that he wrote about basically directly channeling different states of consciousness. And this one is called Thou in Me. When I smile, Thou dost smile through me. When I cry, in me Thou dost weep. When I wake, Thou greetest me. When I walk, Thou art with me. Thou dost smile and weep. Thou dost wake and walk like me. My likeness now, my likeness Thou. But when I dream, Thou art awake. When I stumble, Thou art sure. When I die, Thou art my life. So let's take this opportunity in our lives to remember that everything we do is an opportunity to feel God's love ever more deeply, ever more tangibly. God's love is the most real thing that we can experience if we just keep ourselves open.
Wow. I'm so inspired now. So, like many of us, I also joined the path of Kriya Yoga after reading the Autobiography of a Yogi. And when I read through the chapter, The Science of Kriya Yoga, it was very clear that Master said, Kriya is an instrument through which you can untie the cord which binds the soul to your body and you can be liberated. It's an ancient technique revived by Babaji. It was the same technique which was given to Arjuna by Krishna And great things about those techniques were said, and I said, I want this technique. And especially because he mentioned that by practicing this technique morning and evening regularly, you will be freed, you will be liberated in 6, 12, 24 or 48 years. That's fine. I can work with that. That's fine. I'll be liberated in this lifetime. And then, we got initiated. And then I came across a video where Swami Kriyananda meets a devotee of Paramhansa Yogananda. She came to him and she started weeping. She said, Swami, I've been practicing Kriya for 12 years, more than 12 years. I am not yet enlightened. What should I do? Well, Swami said, keep practicing. And she, of course, encouraged him. But it is not just the technique which will take us towards liberation. Like the satsang today, the law is perfected by love. What law are we talking about? Spiritually speaking, we have yama, niyamas, and we also have, we have taken a vow that I will practice Kriya morning and evening or regularly in my life. We follow that law and we will get liberated. Well, it seems easy, and all the great ones say that Mahavatar Babaji says that practice this technique, you will be liberated. And but Yukteswarji always also says that you cannot progress spiritually unless you cannot take one step ahead in spirituality unless you open yourselves to that love, unless you open that natural love of your heart to God. Now, he didn't speak about law. He didn't say, Yukteswarji didn't say that by practicing Kriya Yoga you will progress spiritually. He speaks about love. And are there any examples? I was thinking and I came across this story, and you all might know the story of Sabri in Ramayana. Sabri was an elderly lady, and she was living in the forest with her guru. And when his guru was about to leave his body, he gave her a blessing and said, I'm going to leave my body. What do you want? And she said, please take me with you. My life here has no meaning without serving you. But her guru said, wait, Lord Ram will come to this forest, and when he comes, you have to meet him and get his blessings, and then you can come and join me. And she waited. She never knew. Guru never said that when he would come. Every day she goes to forest, plucks berries for him, plucks flowers, decorates her home, waits for Ram. That was her sadhana. And years after years, she just kept waiting for Lord Ram to come. And one final day he came, and she was so excited. And she wanted to offer him something to eat, and she lives in a forest. What else she has except those wild berries? And some were bitter, some were tangy. So she wanted to offer the sweetest berries to Lord Ram. She bit one and said, this is tangy, throw it. No, this is sweet, have it. And Lakshmana, his brother, said, well, that's not the rule. I mean, you offer to God first and then you eat. That's how it's prasad. You don't taste it first and then feed it to God from your mouth. But Lord Ram said that these are the sweetest berries I've ever tasted. This not only fills my stomach, it fills my heart. And we get caught up in these law. We forget the love part. And we say that, oh Kali, we should offer red color hibiscus flower. That's very auspicious. For Krishna, we should offer laddu. He loves makhan. We should offer butter. Well, Krishna says in Gita, whenever anyone with pure intentions offers me even a leaf, a flower, a piece of fruit, or water, whether poured out or held up in a vessel, I accept his offering as symbolic of his love. He just says, love. Offer anything, a piece of leaf can be offered to me, but offer it with love. And I'd also like to share a story of which Nayaswami Devrishi shared with us. It's about a story of a disciple, Mr. Gray. Now I'll try to tell the story without crying. But Mr. Gray was a disciple in Phoenix. He was helping the local minister there. He was in his late 40s. He had multiple sclerosis problem and he was very weak. But he had a very natural devotion to Master, towards God. When people talk about great philosophies and metaphysical things, he would just say, I love God, I don't know about those things. And one devotee was really inspired by that love and that childlike love he had for Master. And she thought, why isn't this great Master who's performing so many miracles cure this disciple? And once she decided to ask Master and she walked towards him. And Master, being Master, she looked at her and said, isn't it wonderful that Mr. Gray will work out all that karma through this problem he has in this lifetime? Isn't it wonderful? And then the devotee understood. She just kept quiet. She never spoke about this healing to Master again. And Mr. Gray, towards the end of his life, he was a monk. He was living in Encinitas. He was too weak to stand up, to do anything. He would just, with others' help, go out and lay down in the lawn and weed the lawn. One by one, he would pluck the weed. He was too weak to stand. He was too weak to serve in any other way. And he did that till the end of his life. He did what he could with love. And that kind of self-offering is what is what Swamiji is emphasizing when he says, the law is perfected by love. But how can we offer our love to God? It might be anything. It might be distributing chant books. It might be switching on and off the lights or recording the satsang behind the camera. Small things, but we have to do it with love. How can we cultivate this love? How can we turn the cup to receive His love, to receive and offer share His love with others? Well, that we can do by the practice of Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga and all the techniques which are given to us, the seva we do, are actually meant to open up ourselves to receive and share the love. And one other thing I would like to share is, remind you, is the story of a great singer in the court of Akbar called Tansen. He used to be praised a lot by Akbar, and he would, the singer would say, you should listen to my guru, he's way better than me. And Akbar, the King Akbar, would say, okay, well, call him here. And Tansen would say, no, he wouldn't come here, he sings to the Lord alone, so we have to go to him. So they go there, and then Tansen starts singing to his guru, who taught him music, and he purposely makes a mistake. So his guru says, no, that's not the way you sing. Hear this. And he starts singing. And Akbar is spellbound by his singing. And Akbar asked, how is it possible? You both sing the same way. You hit each note same as your guru. But when your guru sings, I'm spellbound. I can't even express how I feel. And Tansen says, well, I sing to you. He sings to God. He sings with love. And that love is what we have to aim to. And by Guru's grace, we will receive that love. And pray with me. Let's demand for devotion. Our Master has given this prayer for to demand devotion from God. O Father, I hold in my heart in my folded hands. Teach me to saturate my prayers with thy love. Give me the simple, sincere devotion towards thee of a child. Teach me to realize thee behind the voice of my prayer. Teach me to feel thy breath flowing with my breath. Teach me to cognize thy presence in my emotions. Teach me to perceive thy wisdom in my understanding. Teach me to sense thy all-pervading life in my life. Oh, flood my senses with thy light. Om.